Welcome to the Visible Art of Translation podcasts. This series of podcasts are part of the EU-funded INCREC project. Our focus is creativity, translation and technology in literary and audiovisual translation. Our goal with this series is to give visibility to the often invisible skills, role and voice of professional translators.
So today we have a bit unusual episode because we are joined by two guests, two translators, Annelies de Hertoghe and Els de Roon Hertoge. Annelies has a master's degree in translation and translates Russian, English and German literature into Dutch. Els has a master's degree in Slavonic Studies and translates Russian and English literature. They met in 2013 during a translation project in which Annelies was the translator and Els the editor. They worked so well together that they decided to continue collaborating as a duo for Russian and English literature. They have translated works by the Polish-Russian absurdist writer Sigizmund Krzhizhanovsky, the Soviet-Russian humorist Sergey Dovlatov, the German-British experimentalist Isabel Waidner, and the American surrealist Dorothea Tanning, among others. From 2020 to 2024, they worked on their biggest translation project to date, the monumental war novel Stalingrad by Vasili Grossman, the prequel of the equally monumental novel Life and Fate. For this translation, they were awarded the Filter Translation Prize in 2025. They are currently finishing the translation of a third collection of stories by their favorite Russian author, Sigizmund Krzhizhanovsky, and have begun working on the translation of Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. So welcome to our podcast, Annelies and Els.
Hi.
Hello.
Could you first tell us a bit more about how you decided to become translators and how did you start translating together?
Shall I start? So yeah, I studied Russian or Slavonic languages, and from my second year at university, I just wanted to translate and nothing else. And so there was no translation specialization in that time. So I just chose translation topics for all my thesis and assignments. Yeah, after that, I did many other things, and like 16 years later or something, I became full-time translator, or almost full-time translator.
And I have always been an avid reader ever since I was a child and I could read. And since I was 14, I started reading the Russian classics, and I really liked that. And I was always very good at languages, so I knew I wanted to do something with language later in my life, and preferably also with literature. So then I decided, okay, then I want to translate literature, and especially Russian literature. And so I chose to study the Master in Translation with Russian and English as source languages. But then, when I graduated, I was very insecure, uncertain about myself. So I didn't start out as a literary translator immediately. I first did other things, just like Els. I worked as a copywriter for the city of Ghent for many years. So that was also a very creative job. But then at one point, I just wanted to pick up translating again. And then I first started working half-time for the city of Ghent and then half-time as a literary translator. And then a few years later, I decided just to quit my job at the city of Ghent and become a full-time literary translator. And that's also at the time when Elsa and I met. So I was working on a translation project, a very bad biography of Vladimir Putin. And Elsa was my editor. And we felt that there was a kind of magical chemistry between us. It just went very well. And then afterwards we decided that we wanted to work together more. And when I got my a new translation assignment, I asked Els to join me. And the rest is history. We have been translating together ever since. Though we have had some individual translations, but not many.
So was it when you decided to translate together, did you just also ask the publisher that you will translate together?
Yes, because the first assignment that we did together as a translator duo was a novel by Lisa Ganieva, and she's from Dagestan, and Els knows a lot. Yeah, she has traveled a lot in that region. So I told the publisher that she would be a good partner for me because she knew a lot about the culture there, and so he agreed immediately.
Yeah, in general, publishers they don't care if you're one or two. I think for them it's the same. It's even better, I think.
They think it's better. They think it goes faster.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's not true.
But that's not true. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk a bit about the work you did together. Could you tell us which one of your translations was the most memorable for you and why?
Yeah, for me that is definitely Stalingrad, because it was such a big project. The result is more than 1,000 pages, and it was also a very special project because there was no source text. There was no final source text. We had to puzzle it together. So that was very time consuming, but also very rewarding, of course, because we got a prize for it. And so that will stay long in my in my memory. And maybe one other project also very memorable, and that's a book called Godi Bobo in English. We translated by the title of what was it? Curieuze Vogels, and that was very experimental, and we spent a lot of time to translate all those word play and sound play, and it was really weird. It was so experimental that nobody read it, and it was a pity.
Sorry, was it from English or?
Yes, it was from English. So this was a project that I think it made us realize that we really like this kind of experimental literature with a lot of wordplay and linguistic challenges. So since then we have always tried to choose that kind of projects because we really enjoy it. It takes longer than most other projects, but it's just so nice to do, and we like brainstorming about solutions for difficult problems. So for me too, those two projects are the most memorable. Stalingrad because we worked on it for 4 years, which is a long time, and then during that time it kind of grows upon you. The challenges were enormous with the different source texts. We also had a huge collection of GPG files with the printed pages of the original manuscripts in which we had to look for answers when we didn't find them in the other published versions we received. And what was nice was that we took the liberty to restore the original text when we found it necessary for the story, for the plot. So yes, that's what makes Stalingrad most memorable for me.
So were you a bit also, we can say, co-authors when you were translating, in a way?
Well, we always chose the Grossman's own words. It was just we had to look for them we had to search them really in the typoscript. There were different typoscripts. No, we never made something up. We found, but it was very rewarding that we looked for it and we found words and phrases that just suited better in the context. So no, I don't regard ourselves as co-authors. No, more like editors maybe.
I think we just undid the work of the censors because the original, the published versions were severely censored. And so those were not the versions that Grossman wanted to publish. The original versions were much more lively. They had details like it was about cockroaches, theft, so the petty character traits of people that were not acceptable to the Soviet regime, and so were censored out of the text. And we tried to restore these things, which the English translator, Robert Chandler, had also done. But yeah, you probably know that in the English translation culture, yeah, it is quite common to just make sure that the text is fluent and take a lot of liberty in doing that. So we didn't take those liberties. We just looked for this in the typo scripts and then stayed much closer to the original text than Robert Chandler did.
Yeah, I know there are always these debates about how much translators can be free or how close to the original. So that's why I'm asking about how you approach this process. So you already mentioned some challenges. I understand there are many challenges in translating such a work as Stalingrad. But I just wanted to ask if there were any other translation challenges which you maybe brainstormed together more and...
Do you mean about Stalingrad or
Yeah,
in general?
about Stalingrad.
Yeah, so one of the other challenges for me was the language, sometimes very archaic and many adjectives and too many sometimes, especially for the reader. It was not always attractive to read. And also, yeah, it was very, it was still very socialist realist. So, yeah, it's difficult to bring that to the Dutch reader and make it attractive. So that was one of the things. And also, yeah, before Stalingrad, already Life and Fate was published, the sequel, really. So the sequel came before the prequel. So the expectations were very high. And it was, made us a little nervous also.
Yeah, it did. And also another difficulty was there was, yeah, of course, it's a war novel. So there were a lot of military terms. But luckily, we had someone who helped us with that, who had always worked for the Ministry of Defense, who knew Russian and who had also read Stalingrad in Russian. So he knew the book and he knew Russian and he knew everything about military terms. So that was a big help for us. So he read the military parts and advised us on the right terminology.
Yeah, and military, that's one thing. There were also many scientific terms. But yeah, Annelies' husband is very good at that.
Yeah. My husband is has studied physics, and his father was studied. I don't know how to say that in English. He knew everything about steel and metal. And so there was a lot of, big part of the story was in a steel factory. So descriptions of the ovens and what they were filled with. So I could ask those questions to my father-in-law.
It's good to have people who can consult and who knows more about terms.
Essential.
Yes, so our podcast is also about creativity and creative process. So I was wondering, how would you define creativity in translation? What is creative process for you?
I think you constantly making choices. You can translate one thing in a different way. And I always try to detach myself from the source text and just try to formulate my sentences around the concepts, not the text, not the source text. So yeah, there are so many possibilities there, and we have to make choices.
Yeah, for instance, with colloquial language, that can differ very much. So, or I always try to distance myself from the literal text, and then think, how would I say this in Dutch? Or rather, how would the Dutch say this? Because I am Flemish, and I would say it in another way than most Dutch people very often. So I have to do a double translation move, so to speak. So yeah, maybe I have to be twice as creative. I don't know if that's part of creativity too. Trying to think like a Dutch translator instead of a Flemish translator, because of course, yeah, most publishers are in the Netherlands, and the Dutch spoken in the Netherlands is still preferred. So I have to adapt myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we make use of the Flemish. For example, in Krzhizhanovsky.
Yes, also. We always try to struggle in some Flemish expression.
Yeah, so at this moment we are translating Krzhizhanovsky, absurdist stories. And he uses very weird words, and he invents also. He makes new words, and sometimes the Flemish expressions are perfect for that. So we use that also.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you mix several languages here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was there any literary work you translated that changed your approach to creativity? How has this changed?
I think that was Gaudy Bobble.
Yeah.
It was really like a kind of marker that for me, it was the work in which I learned to detach myself more from the source text, because we had to. It couldn't be translated literally or very close to the text. We had to take distance and then use our imagination and creativity to transfer what the author meant into Dutch.
And also for me, Gaudy Bobble, because it looks like intranslatable, but still we did it. So I learned after that nothing is intranslatable, and there's always a way to translate something. So you just create something new, really.
Yeah.
So I learned that from that project. Yeah.
And I'm curious also to learn a bit more about how the process of co-translating looks like. How is it different from translating alone?
Yeah, so usually we divide the text in half, and we just each translate one half, and then we edit each other's halves. And as long as it is necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we already said, the publisher think it takes less time, but it takes more time when you're together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we need to agree upon everything. We work together in Google Drive, so when we are finished with our part of the translation, we tell each other, okay, now you can come into the text and comment upon it. And then there are a lot of comments, and we discuss in these comments until we agree on the best solution for that translation problem. And I think that's where we are most creative, because we challenge each other to think further, to think, and very often I think we
inspire.
we come to solutions that we inspire each other.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just by paraphrasing something, the other one thinks, oh yes, that's it. And then so that's something that you don't have when you work alone, and you can only brainstorm with yourself. But the brainstorming with each other, it really helps the creative process to me.
Mm. And how do you decide when the solution is good enough and then you should stop brainstorming?
When we're both happy. But sometimes, of course, you have to make compromises. So when one of us just really is not happy about a solution, but doesn't find a better solution, then we have to just stick with what the other thinks is best. So
and of course, because it has to be the Netherlands Dutch, Annelies is more often unhappy than me. Because then, we have to decide the most Netherlands Dutch option.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we really stand opposite each other, and then we have a little email group with other translators, and then we just use them as a referee, and whatever they say, we will choose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. am a member of a translation seminar when we discuss one chapter together, and we are 10 people. So sometimes we can fight about some translation
Oh yeah,
challenges forever, but that's a creative process.
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's very rewarding. It takes time, but also it brings up the best in you, I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
If you just keep chewing on a problem instead of just being happy with your first solution that you came up with.
And I know you translate from Russian and English, and I was wondering, is the creative process different for these two languages?
Well, we have been translating a lot of Russian over the past few years, and now we have an English project again, a project from English. And I noticed at first I felt like, oh my God, I can't translate from English anymore. It was very strange. I think I feel that if you translate from English, there's sometimes I think it's more difficult to get loose from the text. I think you can more easily translate too literally when translating from English. So that's something you need to be very alert to. And in Russian, I don't know. I think over the years we have developed some tricks for certain constructions. So that goes like more fluently, I think.
Yeah. You easily see in bad translations from English, you see the English through the Dutch.
Yeah.
And it is treacherous because it's so close.
For instance, the Russian doesn't have articles. So that's something that you have to derive from the context. So that's a difference from English. And then in English, what you have there is that you can be either colloquial, informal, or polite form. And then you also have to sometimes just choose which you think is best in the context. So those are two differences between English and Russian.
Yeah.
And if you have to translate something that you don't like, or you maybe have very strong emotions about, how do you deal with such things?
First of all, anything we translate, it's sort of becomes your child, and you just go for it. And like musicians play their music. But our very first project was this biography of Putin, and it was very bad. It was no critical word. And we always felt sorry about that we did that. We regretted, but it was our first project, so we couldn't say no. So yeah, later.
And we hadn't read the text, we hadn't read the book beforehand. So it was only during the translation process that we noticed, oh my God, this is like more like there were some lies.
There were even lies. Yeah, it was.
And it was really difficult. But I don't remember what it was exactly, but that at one point it was such a blatant lie that we decided to just adapt our sentence just a little bit so that the lie wasn't that flagrant anymore.
Yeah. And then later we translated Daria Serenko. Yeah, I don't know English title, but she's a anti-war, anti-Putin feminist,
An activist.
For me it was a sort of soothing my conscience. I thought, at least I compensate for this biography with this translation. Yeah.
When I was preparing for this episode, I looked at your website and I saw this Putin biography and then Daria's text. And I know a bit about the feelings she expressed in this text. And so I was thinking it's a rich picture of everything.
Yes.
I understand it can be complicated.
Yeah,
but I think
there's like 12 years between them, or maybe more. So,
and we would never again do a project like that if we knew beforehand that it was such a text. It's a bit out of principle. I think I would never translate a book from an author who I know is pro the Russian regime. or pro the war in Ukraine. I wouldn't want to translate a book like that. Don't want to introduce an author like that to the Dutch readers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you are
yeah.
contributing to an ideology by translating those texts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand it can be hard to know in advance sometimes when we translate. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also, in our podcast, we usually discuss questions about technology because it's now developing very fast and I think affecting our profession. So I'm wondering, how do you feel about technology such as machine translation? And do you agree that the profession will be changed by technology?
I think for Els and me that it doesn't pose a very big threat yet because we mostly like we said we translate literature with a lot of linguistic challenges, and I don't think that AI is up to that yet. But I have heard from colleagues that they are offered not to translate a novel, but to revise a novel that has been translated by AI. So recently, a colleague of mine that translates from German was offered such a project by a Flemish publishing house. And they just said, we paid a lot for the translation rights, so we don't want to pay a lot for the translation itself. So we just let it translate by AI, and now we are looking for a translator who wants to, clean it up, so to speak. Of course, for a lot less money. So
did she take the offer?
no, of course not. No, but they found someone else who was willing to do it. So if other translators are willing to do these things, then of course, it's a bad trend, of course.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic about that, but for now I don't feel threatened yet.
I think for romance literature and like thrillers, so those genres are threatened more than, I don't want to call it higher literature, but literature that's has more stylistic challenges. It doesn't pose a threat to date for that kind of literature, but things can change very fast, of course.
And how do you think machine translation can affect creativity?
It can help.
Yeah,
too.
we use it.
Because sometimes if we doubt between two interpretations, and sometimes I ask different chatbots, or how is it called? And I just see what they come up with. If they all say the same thing, and I think, okay, then maybe that is the most plausible interpretation. Or sometimes when I looking for an expression, but it won't come. Then I sometimes just ask, I'm looking for an expression, it means this, blah, 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 blah. Can you give me some examples? And then sometimes it comes in the results, or it doesn't come in the results, but another expression that comes in the results that triggers me to find another solution. So in that way, sometimes it does help, but there are a lot of things it can't do. I once asked for words that rhymed on a specific word, and it had to be an animal. there was nothing came out of it that I could use. So it's still restricted.
So is it ChatGPT like programs you use?
Yeah, like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude is also one, and Le Chat, I think, is also one.
Yeah, I think it's all of them are large language models. So
yeah.
And else, do you also use ChatGPT or similar programs?
Yeah, I agree with Annelies. I use it less. I think maybe because I'm less experienced. Also, I don't know exactly what I can do with it. Yeah, so yes, sometimes I do ask and I look for inspiration. But yeah, things about interpretation, I really prefer to ask my Russian helpline, who is of flesh and blood.
Yeah, that's of course the first.
And I trust her more. So yeah, I'm learning to use it now. Yeah, but yeah, and for the rest, I agree with Annelies. It can be used badly, and yeah, it will look bad for literature, I think.
Yeah. I think if you let AI translations, if there were more and more of those translations, and I think it will like impoverish language and literature, because it's really, it's much less creative. I think it will sound the same, too much of the same, and very, I don't know how to explain it in English.
Uniform.
Uniform, yeah. The same style.
Yeah.
Wollig in Dutch, but I don't know how to say that in English.
Maybe a bit flat.
Flat. Yeah.
Flat. That's the word, I think. And I think there would be a lot of mistakes, especially if it's not checked afterwards by someone who really knows the language and the culture, because culture is also an aspect of translating, and that needs to be taken into account. And I don't think those language models take culture into account. I don't know.
Yeah, and then also it can be abused to make people believe things and make people think a different way. So it's a risk.
Yeah.
So if machine translation replaced professionals, what would a world without translators look like?
It would be a loss, I think. I think that especially in times with all these wars, it's very important that we still have people who learn the language and culture of countries like Russia, like Israel, and other rogue regimes, in order to understand what's happening, or to understand the people that live there, and also to better, to transfer the literature into Dutch, but with much more understanding.
Mm.
Yeah, I have this fantasy that if this really develops further and it will replace translators, I'm sure there will be some counter movement sometime, and that will promise the real handmade translations, or
quality label.
Yeah, sort of label that this is there already. We have stickers
translated by a
human, and it also already exists stickers you can put in your laptop or yeah. Just like organic food, with its label, and I just imagine it would happen.
Yeah, maybe this label makes something more valuable in a way.
For people who appreciate it.
Okay, I think that's all I wanted to ask you today, and it was a very nice conversation. Thank you for joining our podcast.
Thank you for asking us.
Thank you.
Thank you again to our invited speaker, and to our listeners. Thank you for being there, and feel free to share our podcasts with your family, friends, and colleagues. This is part of a series of podcasts of the EU-funded INCREC project. So follow us for more episodes, and please share your comments on this platform. See you next time.